You want to grow your glutes. You have to be strength training, implementing progressive overload, and you have to be eating your protein. You got to be hitting at least your maintenance calories.
All right, we're all systems go. Let's do this.
Oh,
shit,
sorry.
I almost blew it
Okay,
all.
here we go.
All right, I'll
New
do the
technology
intro.
here. Not used to this boingy cord. All right.
Dun, 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 dun. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Soda Personal Training Podcast. We help busy adults get strong and fit and stay that way for a really long time. I'm Coach Sean, here with Coach Maddie.
What's up?
How are you?
Great. It's been a wonderful Saturday thus far.
Yeah, and I'm excited about this one. Today we're going to talk about
How to be a good one.
how to build a booty.
How to build a booty.
And this is an episode so this is something that, particularly among female clients and people that work out, a lot of people want this, but maybe sometimes don't say it that directly,
Absolutely. It's
Like-
the indirect
Yeah.
goals they give.
Exactly. They'll kind of say, I want to get stronger, I want to get more fit. And then like you really get deep down, they're like, I want to build my butt,
Yep.
And by the way, guys, we should be paying attention to it because it's important for guys to have glutes as well. I think what we want to do is we want to start off by going over some big key concepts that people need to understand before we get really into the nitty gritty of like exercise selection and stuff like that.
And we're getting nitty gritty.
We're going to get nitty
We're
gritty.
getting scientific
Yes. Maddie knows science. I don't really know a lot of science, but I
today.
am here.
It's debatable.
Yeah. How do you want to start? Let's talk through some of those big key points.
Well, I guess the 3 key points we will be addressing is strength training, nutrition, and sleep. 3 things that we've been yapping about for ever.
For decades and centuries. Yeah. And like these 3 big rocks, as I call them, are kind of the most important things for any fitness goal, right? And, building a booty is no different, right? You need to have, good exercise, good nutrition, and good sleep, right? So whichever piece of that you want to talk about first, go for it.
I think we just dive right in with strength training because it's one of the most important parts of building any muscle is consistent strength training and how we're implementing that
Yep.
paired with the other ones.
Yeah, exactly. And so like not to get too into the weeds yet on the exercises, but when you talk about strength training, you're talking about what kind of types of exercise? Are we talking about lifting heavy? Are we talking about lifting,
We're talking about lifting compound movements for the majority of it. And if you're not familiar with what a compound movement is, it's any exercise that uses multiple muscle groups, which I would argue that a lot of exercises do use multiple, but they're like the bigger, heavier bro lifts.
The bro lifts.
The
Okay,
bro
but
lifts.
so the ladies should be doing the bro lifts, basically.
The bro lifts, and yeah.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. And in this case, not to be too much of a spoiler, but we're probably going to be talking about squats, deadlifts, things like that, right? Those are the big
That's
compound
all we're going to
movements.
talk about.
Yeah,
I'll say it right
Nothing
now.
else.
I've had clients before that I'm programming and they kind of feel like we're doing the same things over and over and over again. Gonna let you in on a little secret. That's the key. That's the key.
Like, yeah, we
It's
are.
not broke, don't fix it.
Not
broke, yeah. Not
Yeah,
broke,
yeah.
don't fix it. And it's squats, deadlifts, hip thrusts, glute bridges. That's it. And just different variations of it.
Yeah. And I'm curious to hear, which we'll come back to this, but I'm curious to hear like your kind of order of exercises or order of importance among those. But I'll kind of save that.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll save that for later. So before we go into nutrition, just an overarching view of like nutrition, is there anything key that you want to say about the strength training piece to start?
So with the compound movements and why they're so important is, so since they're using those bigger muscle groups, so the glutes, the quads, the hamstrings, you want to take those guys slow and steady. And so this is where I'm big on that mind muscle connection. And I know that there's a lot of like, some people don't believe in it and all of that. But if you're actively thinking about the muscles that you're using, I don't know if you've ever, so like when you're squatting, you're thinking about how much pain you're in and how much it sucks. I get it. But have you ever actually thought about only your glutes lifting you up when you're in that bottom position? Have
Hmm.
you only ever focused on just your glutes lifting you up?
Sure. I mean, if you're asking me, I actually probably haven't. Like when I'm doing a heavy, heavy squat, I probably
Right.
have not.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's like, and especially in those heavier ones, like, I'm going to be honest, when I'm doing those, it's just like, get me out from underneath this bar.
Yeah.
But when you really slow it down, kind of drop the ego a little bit with the weight, and you actively think about what muscles you're working, it's kind of amazing the difference.
Mm,
And that I won't go into my tangent on how much your brain and your mind is linked to all of this, but it's insane when you put your mind to it and think about the muscles that are working,
hmm.
how much more you can feel them.
Yeah.
I challenge you to do that. Your next squat, once you're deep down at the bottom of that movement, only thinking about your glutes lifting you up, you'll be surprised.
Hmm.
You'll be surprised.
I'm going to have a question I'm going to come back to as we go into this real deep exercise stuff at the end here. Cause yeah, this is actually, that's interesting to me because I'm one who doesn't really think glutes when I'm squatting, you know? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, and that was kind of a stupid thing. We should probably just cut that last part out. But anyway, keep
Phil
going.
doesn't cut anything.
Right.
I guess the last thing for the strength training piece is if you haven't heard the word progressive overload yet,
Yep.
I'm not sure where you've been. Progressive overload is absolutely like the biggest key to any muscle building, strength training exercise ever. If you're using the same weight for the same amount of reps every single time, you're not going to progress as fast as
Mm.
you would bumping up that weight, bumping up those
Yeah.
reps. Um, and then in for quote, building the booty, you do want to be in a little bit higher of a rep range. So in this, I guess I'll go off on a little, I wish I had a visual here,
Hmm.
but for like strict strength training, you want to be anywhere from like the 2 to 6 rep range. Like
Yeah.
6 is kind of on that high end for pure strength.
Yep.
Whereas that hypertrophy, that muscle building, growing phase happens up until like the 15
Yeah. Yep.
cutoff. I don't.
Yeah. 15 rep. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
like
we're,
sitting in the 8 to 15, 10 to 15, 12 to 15, like that's kind of where you want to be
yeah.
when you're trying to build
Yep.
muscle.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And these are actually kind of a couple questions you're already answering that I was going to ask you specifically, about, yeah, particular rep ranges, especially on the key compound movements like squats. And then I think a point that we could maybe come back to is like the mind muscle connection versus the trying to go heavier. Because on the one hand, I am always an advocate of like progressive overload. We got to bump that weight up, trying to build any muscle, glutes included, bump that weight up.
Oh
But
yeah.
you got to do it in a way that you've got your mind on it, the
Oh
mind
yeah.
muscle connection,
Oh yeah.
so it's like a fine line there. What else about the strength training piece to start?
It's the only way you're gonna build a booty.
It's the only way you're going to build a
It's
booty.
the
Yeah,
only
yeah. And
way.
you got
I'm
to do a few
sorry.
other things right as well, not to make this seem too
Oh,
challenging.
right,
But
right, right.
but so we're going to come back towards at the end here towards like the most important exercises and the real nitty-gritty details. But should we go to nutrition a little bit?
Let's go.
Okay. Well, I'll just say this part because even though I'm not that smart, I like to think I know a lot about nutrition. So, key concept here to think about is anytime we're trying to grow a muscle does not grow. Muscle does not grow in general if we're in a calorie deficit,
Nope.
meaning we're eating less calories than we are burning. Okay. And this is sometimes a really tough one because a lot of people, like the people who are listening to this, it's like, well, I want to grow my booty and I want my waist to be 4 inches around.
Yeah.
I want to lose weight on the waist and grow my booty at the same time.
Yep.
And it's like, well, you're just kind of a hamster running around in a wheel
Yep.
at that point.
Yep.
You're going to get
Yep.
nowhere. You're
Yep.
going to try to do exercises to build your booty and you're going to eat not enough. That way you're trying to stay as skinny as possible. In general, won't happen at the same time in
Correct.
general. Right.
Yep.
And so from a nutrition standpoint, we need to eat enough protein, obviously, and then enough calories, not necessarily a huge surplus. Did I just like take away everything on nutrition? I don't know. What do you think
No.
about all that?
No, yeah. Building muscle mass, you need to be in that progressive overload, and your protein has to be up there. Protein has to be up there, and you got to be at least at your maintenance calories.
Mhm.
So what your BMR is, what you're burning completely at rest, just existing, plus your activity,
Yeah.
that TDEE,
Mhm.
total daily energy expenditure.
Yep.
Wow, really
Mhm.
testing myself there.
Acronyms. Yep. Yep. We're getting corporate.
Almost exposed myself there a little bit.
That's all right. Nobody.
But
Yeah, go
yes,
ahead.
so in order to increase your muscle mass, you have to be strength training, implementing progressive overload, and you have to be eating your protein. You got to be hitting at least your maintenance calories.
Yep.
So like it's tough if you want to lose weight. You can build muscle, but I'll say to keep it just easy, you're not going to be able to build sufficient muscle if you're in a calorie deficit.
Yes.
You
Yep.
can still It's still possible.
But it's really hard.
It's hard.
Like, take
It's
it from
hard.
me, it's
It's hard.
really hard to
It's
build
hard.
muscle and burn body fat at the same time. It's almost impossible.
It
Okay.
is.
Um,
But I will tell you, the more muscle mass you have,
the skinnier you
the
look.
the
Yep.
higher your resting
Oh, okay. Yeah,
metabolism, the
yeah, yeah.
higher your BMR is, the more you're just gonna burn existing.
Mhm.
So if you have more
Yeah.
muscle, you're gonna burn more calories just existing.
Yeah. That's true. I thought you were going to go the route of like, if your booty is bigger and rounder, your waist looks smaller. I'm
That
like,
too.
well,
There
yeah.
are illusions, but
Yeah,
then
yeah.
we get into what your lats look like and your back and the
Hmm.
hourglass, but
Hmm.
we'll save that.
For another day,
We'll
maybe.
save that for a rainy day.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So we got to eat enough. We got to eat quality foods. We got to eat enough protein. Yeah. Okay. What else in terms of nutrition? Anything overarching important?
I will say 'cause I don't want to be talking just to the ladies, but because one thing I hear all the time is that we want to tone up, we want to lose that stomach fat, and we want to build the booty. So, my two things that I will challenge all female clients, especially when they present that goal to me, is now you're going to prioritize protein and fiber.
Mm,
So, fiber is such an underrated. I'm gonna call it a macronutrient. Like it should be
yeah.
equally as 'cause technically it's a carbohydrate, but
Hmm.
I won't get into that weeds.
Yeah.
But you should really be prioritizing fiber, and I feel like fiber is such an overlooked macronutrient, and women need 25. Well, women and men, 25 to 30 grams a day.
Hmm. Yep.
A lot of people don't hit that.
Yeah. Um, it's interesting. I totally agree with you that fiber is super, super important. It's actually unexpected for you to bring this up here. I always think of fiber as like a super important one if you're trying to, help somebody lose weight because it's satiating and everything like that.
Yep.
Um, whereas and maybe this is good advice for me to think through too, because I never really talk to people about fiber if we're talking about building muscle. I'm usually just like eat a lot of protein and freaking hammer that food, right? Um,
Well, I'm
Go
gonna
ahead.
tell you. I mean, if you're eating a lot of protein, you're gonna need a lot of fiber to
Mm.
keep things moving
Okay,
along.
yeah, that's fair. That's a fair statement. Yeah, yeah. I should probably use that a little bit. I should talk to more people about fiber.
Fiber. That's the
Um,
two things
yeah,
I will always advocate for anybody. I don't even talk about fats or carbs. I say
mm,
fiber and protein.
yeah,
Focus on getting 25 to 30 grams of fiber every day and
yeah,
100 grams to whatever the calculation you're going to use for protein
hmm,
per day.
yeah, yep. Okay,
It's
yeah, I
pretty
like that.
basic. You don't have to get into the nitty gritty of tracking and all of that. There's small goals to hit, but they do help a
Yeah,
lot.
hmm, yep. What else? Overarching themes on nutrition before we go into the other stuff.
I think that's all I've got for right now without getting down
Two
too
into the
many
weeds.
rabbit holes.
Yep. Sleep. So, okay, sleep. We want to sleep 9 hours a night. It's got to be in bed at 8:55 p.m. precisely. Take you less than 5 minutes to fall asleep. Wake up exactly at 6 and do the same thing every day with no interruptions. Probably don't even sleep with your spouse because technically that lowers your sleep quality a little. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay.
Wouldn't that be nice
Yeah.
if it was that easy? If it
Okay.
was that easy.
What's the overarching advice on sleep here?
So you can't look at sleep as just resting.
Mhm.
That's when your body does a lot of repairing, recovering. Your body does so much when you're sleeping. And I feel like people just think about sleep as, I'm going to go to bed so I'm not tired tomorrow.
Mm.
Just as, they're looking at it just like resting. And that's kind of all it is. But it's like, no, there's so much your body does and needs from good quality sleep.
Hmm. Yep. And okay, so what would you say is like, okay, the difference then in that mentality? Like, okay, if I'm thinking about it, just so I'm not tired tomorrow, I'm assuming here we're talking about mostly getting the good deep sleep, right? Because that's theoretically when the muscle repair and stuff happens, right? Like, is there advice that you would give people on how to get into deep sleep faster or to get more deep sleep throughout the night?
It's really kind of how you set up your sleep. So
Yeah,
if you're up late scrolling, watching screens, using some sort of stimulant, if you're stressed, like it's just going to affect your sleep
yeah,
quality. There's so much that goes into it. But just like having a good wind down routine
yeah,
um usually helps people get to sleep faster, more quality sleep rather than just kind of sitting in that light sleep the whole time.
yeah.
Because yeah, REM and deep sleep are the most critical for like feeling refreshed in the
Hmm.
morning, and that like even the memory benefits, the recovery, all of that. Usually you get that during your deep and
Yeah.
your REM.
Right. Yeah. And we get that better when we do the things that you just talked about, which is, have a good bedtime routine, dim the lights, don't be doom scrolling until past midnight, don't drink a bunch of alcohol and caffeine, whatever, right? All those simple
If
stuff.
you're drinking caffeine before bed, I don't know how to help you.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, okay, so and I have a cup of coffee in my hand literally right now, but like
That's all right.
but
It's
yeah, it's
midday.
like
It's
it's midday right
midday.
now, but I know enough people that kind of do that. Like they can have like a post dinner like coffee or something, you know what I mean? And
Well, and I used to be like that where I could drink coffee at any given hour and it wouldn't. I didn't think it affected my sleep
bingo.
because I thought I was still being able to go to bed on time, but my body wasn't able to get into the deep sleep, into REM. I just kind of stayed in that light sleep,
Yeah.
and you don't recover that well. You don't recover that well. You don't wake up as refreshed as if you were to get more REM or deep sleep.
Yeah. Hmm.
So even though you don't think
Yep.
your afternoon pick me up is affecting your sleep, it probably is,
Yep.
fortunately.
And basically the same thing can be said about alcohol, right? The same
Yeah.
exact logic you just used. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Unfortunately.
sleep good, folks. Long
Should.
story short. And this is neglected by anybody. Everybody who's on either a muscle building, fat burning, or both journey. Sleep is often still neglected. You'll ask someone like, how about your sleep? You're trying to eat well, you're trying to exercise well and everything. They're like, oh yeah, well, I sleep 5.5 hours a night. And then the weekends, it's way different than the weekdays. It's like, oh, well, that plays a huge role in all
It plays
this.
a huge role.
Yes.
Huge role. And that's
Yeah.
like, I know it's difficult for busy adults where they've got kiddos and, you know,
Yeah.
it's hard to actually get to sleep. But if you actually prioritize sleep for just a week and try to get between 7 and 8 hours,
Yeah.
the difference you feel is kind of crazy. And like
Yes.
I think we talked about it in the last podcast where I just kind of blew off sleep because I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. And I was getting 5.5, 6 hours a night. And I'm like, I'm good. Like, I'm awake. I'm here. But then I actually started prioritizing bedtime
Yeah.
and getting good sleep. And it's night and day difference.
Yeah, yeah. Something funny actually. So last night I slept about 5.5 hours
Ugh.
because it's actually because I was excited about this because I'm just pumped to do this podcast,
I love
and
it.
then so we're gonna do the podcast then a workout, and like I was legitimately pumped about it, and
Yeah.
just like Saturdays in here are kind of fun anyway.
Yeah.
So I woke up too early. I woke up at like 3:30,
Oh my word.
and
All right.
the plan was to sleep till close to 6. But anyway, and so
Well,
I was
yeah,
just like,
I skipped watching the Timberwolves game because I
I
was
did too.
supposed to go to bed early,
Yep.
and I don't think I got to bed until like 11:30.
But then but you still didn't
And
watch?
I was up at 6. I was up at 6, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got 7-ish hours.
Okay.
Should have gotten more, but that's my fault.
But how'd you stay up that late if you weren't watching the Timberwolves? Were you doom scrolling?
I was watching the small screen in my hands.
Yep. There it is. There it
Duh.
is. Now we're supposed to practice what
Duh.
we preach, Maddie. Come on now.
Hey, you know
No, no,
what?
no.
Nobody's perfect.
I know. Okay. Um,
Cue Hannah Montana.
so sleep.
That might be too young. I'm sorry.
um,
Alright, back to this.
back to
Sleep. It's
build the booty.
critical
Sleep's
for,
important.
muscle growth
Yeah,
and
yeah.
recovery.
Yep. Um, anything else on sleep before we dive into the
Well, I
exercise
was
weeds?
gonna because sleep is such a neglected or an overlooked part of getting better, hitting your goals, I did go a little bit deeper with this sleep one. I don't know, just to make it more enticing to go to bed early and
Yeah.
to get good sleep. So I've got some notes here. So when you're sleeping, during sleep, prior or mainly that deep sleep, your body releases growth hormones, and these are essential for muscle repair and rebuilding.
Mhm.
So I don't know, I won't name drop them, but one of my favorite clients, every time they would come in, they would go, "All right, let's get ready for some micro tearing. Let's do some micro tearing."
I
Do you know who I'm talking about?
actually don't know who you're talking about. We're gonna
Yeah.
discuss this afterwards. Hmm.
But so when you do when you're strength training, you're micro tearing your muscles, not
All
in a
right.
bad way. But so when you sleep, your body releases hormones that are helping rebuild that and recover that.
Mhm.
So if you have a hard workout and then you sleep like garbage that night, like you're probably going to be a little extra sore than you would if you
Yes.
had a
Yep.
great night of sleep. And also, sleeping allows your muscles to replenish glycogen, which is the fuel for our workouts.
The fuel for the booty gains.
Fuel for the booty gains is
Yep.
that glycogen, so you need decent stores of it. So sleeping, it helps replenish those and it helps restore the muscle tissue, so
Mhm.
rebuilding those small micro tears. So insufficient sleep can impair these processes and it can contribute to, ready for this? Muscle loss.
Correct. Yep. Mhm.
So if you're not sleeping well and you're working your butt off in the gym,
Yes. Yeah, this is and okay, not to
you could
deviate
be
too much.
losing
I
muscle.
know. See, this is where it gets really
Could be losing
dicey.
muscle.
Yes, this is where it gets really dicey, and I don't want to deviate us too much. But yeah, there is a point where, especially like if we got a lot of stress, not sleeping well, and calorie deficit, and we're training hard in the gym, it can be too much, and then it can contribute to muscle loss. But that's probably it's like a whole other rabbit
So
hole. Should be for another day. But
just the broad statement, go to bed
go to bed.
and you won't lose your
Yep.
muscle.
Yep. Dump your social media
But
apps.
so why I will go a little sciencey, so you learn you something today.
Learn us something. Maddie tells us up.
So why this happens is it can put your body into a catabolic state. What this essentially means is your body is breaking itself down. So putting it into a catabolic state, your body is breaking down that muscle tissue. So that's why you're seeing that muscle loss rather than just nothing happening.
Yeah.
So go to bed.
Go to bed.
Get some
Yes.
sleep. Get some
Correct.
sleep.
I'm gonna draw another comparison here just for stupidity's sake. It
Oh,
is
good.
like, the way I'll say it is like, ladies, if all your Instagram reels right now are booty reels, like how to build your booty, and you're up watching that shit until like 1 o'clock in the morning, put that away
Yeah,
and go to
you're
sleep.
doing
That
yourself a
way,
disservice.
exactly.
Yeah, you're edumacating, but at
Yeah.
what cost?
Yes,
At
because
what cost?
I had a friend like a couple years ago, a male friend who was trying to raise his testosterone levels. Don't ask the full details, right?
Lovely.
Anyway, and so he was telling me, he's like, yeah, I was researching it till like 1 o'clock in the morning yesterday. I'm like, bro, if you want to raise your testosterone, just go to
It's
sleep.
unfortunately not the way to do it,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I love the enthusiasm.
Right.
So the last thing I'll put for the sleep one is so I was just looking at just studies, and so there was a 2010 study, so it's a little outdated, but
Mm,
minor details. So individuals in a negative balance, so like not getting enough sleep, and in this one particularly, they were sleeping 5.5 hours a night.
yeah.
So these individuals lost 60% more muscle mass and 55 less fat mass.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. As compared to 8 hours of sleep a night or whatever.
Lost 60%, that's over half
Yep.
of their muscle mass, and 55, over half percent less fat loss
Yep.
because they weren't sleeping.
Yep.
So if this has not
It's huge.
convinced you to prioritize sleep and go to bed, I don't know.
Then we can't help you
I
anymore.
don't know.
So you got to sleep. Yeah.
Gotta go to bed.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Alright.
I think those are useful just to have some data with it too, because it just you still can't get it through people's heads. So yeah,
It's a hard one. I get it. Because I mean, I heard for years how important sleep was, and I'm like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And then I actually started prioritizing sleep. I'm like, wow,
yeah,
this is great. I don't care that I'm a I think I was just saying this last night because I didn't go and watch the Timberwolves. I was supposed to go watch the Timberwolves game with my brother.
Mhm.
And I was like, nah, like I gotta get up early. Like I gotta go to bed. He's like, party pooper. Absolutely. I'm a
Yeah.
party. I don't care. I'm
Yeah.
going to bed.
You want to be a booty builder, be a party pooper.
That's a good one.
Straight up.
There's the tagline.
Yeah. Yeah. Should we dive into the nitty-gritty of the exercises?
Let's do it. This is what
Okay.
everyone wants. They don't
Yeah.
want to hear
They're all gonna
anymore
skip the
about.
other stuff. Yep.
They don't want to hear about nutrition
They're
and
gonna
sleep and all
undereat,
of that.
undersleep,
Yep.
and drink
No.
way too much alcohol, and let's tell them what exercises to do anyway. That way, maybe they get a little bit of benefit. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. How would you design a workout program that's
So I guess I'll talk about the two because I've got some more sciencey things here.
that's good?
There's two main types of exercises. Specifically, what I'm talking about is these lower body exercises where your muscles are in a lengthened position.
Mm-hmm.
So in a lengthened position, squats is one of them because when you're at the bottom of the movement, your muscles lengthen out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to
The
get this in
glutes
like
specifically in this case,
most
yeah.
gen
Mm-hmm.
word ever. So yes, so these movements are ones where your glutes especially are stretched or extended at the bottom of a
Yes.
movement. So squats, deadlifts, RDLs, lunges, those are all considered lengthened position movements.
Mm-hmm.
So in any lower body day that I personally program for clients or myself, I'm always starting with a lengthened bilateral compound movement.
Lengthened bilateral compound. Yep. Okay. Now, just to make sure I understand, and then it maybe help the audience too, because even though I do know some things about science, I don't know everything about science. Just to make sure that we're fully on the same page. In this case, we're talking about the glutes being in a lengthened position, meaning that the muscles are stretched out, and the way that we stretch the glute, because what the glute does in general, the main function is to extend the hips. So if you're flexed at the hips, right, that's when the glutes are stretched out, right? That's when it's lengthened, basically. If your hips are flexed, like at the bottom of the squat,
Right.
basically.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Just make sure. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So just to make sure we're clear on that, right? When there's a lot of, we're bringing your knee up to your chest, for example, is the way the glute is stretched, right?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just trying to
Nope, we're good.
see,
good.
like, even someone like me, I'm a little slow with this. Sometimes I'm like, okay, let's understand this via
No, that's good. That's good. We need
Um,
visuals. I'm a visual learner.
Yeah. And so we're talking about the bottom portion of a squat. If you get a good deep squat, similar like a bottom portion of a deadlift or even an RDL, especially if you stick the butt back a little bit more, pro tip. Anyway, at least I think that's a pro tip. That's what the YouTube rabbit holes have told me.
Right.
Okay.
YouTube's always right.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Just like Soda Personal Training Podcast is always right with a verified stamp on it.
Always.
So, okay, we've got that. We're in the lengthened position.
We
And
got the
this is-
lengthened.
You got the lengthened. And so I'm going to come back with another question when you talk
All right.
about shortened. So keep it going.
Well, then I'm bringing it into the shortened position.
Yep.
So these are hip thrusts, glute bridges, and then any variation. So like a single leg, unilateral. So I know I did throw that bilateral word out there.
Mm-hmm.
Bilateral movements.
Yeah.
Both feet.
Yep.
Both feet are working. Unilateral, one leg is working. That goes the same with any upper body. So bilateral, both sides are working. Unilateral, one side is working.
Mm-hmm.
So with the shortened, we got the bilateral hip thrusts, glute bridges, and then unilateral hip thrusts, glute bridges, kickbacks, 45-degree hip extension.
Yep.
All of those wonderful things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was your
Okay. So
question?
I guess my question was going to be, because I understand what you're talking about when you say like the hip thrust. Let's take the hip thrust as the main one. This is like everybody. That's the go-to for how to build your glute, how to build the booty, right? The hip thrust. Okay.
It is the way.
Yeah, it is the
Telling
way.
you.
Now, here's my question. This is getting into the nitty-gritty here.
All right.
Is you're saying in general, you would do that as a second exercise most days.
I would.
Okay.
Usually because, and this is, I've got my example glute leg day.
Yeah.
Underneath. But so that compound movement, the first exercise you do, you're fresh, you shouldn't be that fatigued yet. You've got a lot of gas in the tank. That's the one that you want to expend the most energy on right away.
Yeah.
And so that's why you want to do one of those big compound movements like a squat like a deadlift, like an RDL first because it's more taxing
Mhm.
on your entire body.
Yep, I agree.
So you go through, you get that one done, and then you can get into what is considered that accessory work or that secondary stuff
Yep.
um, for more reps. And I've done it where I've done hip thrust before, like a squat. And like it really doesn't change it that much, but I prefer doing that bigger compound movement
Yeah.
before that shortened
Yep. Yep.
position.
That all makes sense. Would you even give the same advice? Let's say someone struggles to connect to the glutes like on a squat. Let's say it's like a quad dominant person, quote unquote, and they do a barbell, like a back squat, and they're like, I only feel it in my quads. I don't connect to my glutes. In that case, would you ever recommend starting with a hip thrust or something?
Yes, because then you're kind of firing up those glutes first, so they're
Yeah.
already going to be activated, ready to go. But this is where I'm going to throw my mind muscle at you.
Yeah.
So usually, and if you struggle with this, because I know I'm a very quad dominant person.
Mm.
I contributed that to playing soccer for so long, where my quads just want to take over
Yeah.
everything. But as soon as and then the other thing was I was very much so squatting ass to grass, where it was like the I need to get the closest to the floor
Yeah.
ever. When I stopped doing that and I focused on like just getting to that parallel and then using my glutes to lift me up out of that position,
Mm.
I barely felt my quads at all.
Okay. So this is really interesting. So like, okay, in general, because a lot of times we're gonna say get lower, even to work the glutes, we're gonna say get lower to the ground, and people are gonna think ass to grass, right?
Yep.
But maybe in a more glute bias squat, and again, this is really into the weeds here. So like most of you, if you just get better at squatting, it's gonna work anyway, right? But like really into the weeds, what you maybe want to do is sit back a little more into the squat. If I'm
Yeah.
describing that right, sit back a little bit. You should be bent quite a bit at the hips, right?
Mhm.
Then that angle should be a very small angle between your torso, upper body, and
Mhm.
your thighs, your femurs. So sit
But
back
keeping your
and
chest tall.
keeping your chest tall.
Don't let
Yeah,
chest
don't
fall.
round the back. Yeah, yeah.
No falling.
Yep. And then you're kind of gonna like you're gonna drive through the heels up
Mhm.
and think about like what's your thought when you're doing that?
I because there is that hip extension. Like you
Yeah.
want and that's where from that driving the glutes up because what do glutes help with? Or
Mm,
what's their main,
hip hip extension.
right?
Yeah.
Coming up from it. So I don't necessarily think coming straight up and down. I'm more thinking of like to me a squat there's two components. So if you've got the barbell back here, you're sitting back more and that's where your chest doesn't necessarily fall, but you kind of that's where you make that angle.
Yeah.
So you're starting see if I can get this on here.
Mm,
You're starting upright and you're sinking back into it.
yeah.
So then coming up out of that bottom, out of the pocket, you're pushing your hips. So you're coming up first, you're coming up straight first, but then you're pushing your hips forward to get
Hmm.
back to that parallel or
Yes.
that line.
It's like we talk about like escalator versus elevator motion, kind of
Yes.
like
Yep.
45-degree angle moving forward, moving the hips
Yes.
forward rather than going straight up and
Yes.
down.
Yes.
And once again, for people listening, if you've never squatted in your life, this is like highly technical
It is.
and getting better at any like a squat period, you're going to grow your glutes and legs. So don't worry too much about
Well, and
this,
that, yeah.
right?
Start with the basics,
Um
start with the foundation.
yes.
Can't
Yeah.
have a strong house if your foundation is cracked and
Right.
shitty.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay. So, yeah, start with the compounds. In general, in general, start with the compound bilateral lifts, then maybe work towards something like a hip thrust. Then where does the workout go? Let's say you've done some squats or deadlifts and maybe a hip thrust. Then what happens?
So I'll give you my lengthened bilateral, unilateral, shortened
Hmm.
thing with the sets and reps, and then I'll give you an example
Yep.
workout here.
Free workout program,
So
people.
starting out, we just warmed up. We're good to go. We're gonna hit that lengthened bilateral compound movement. 4 to 5 sets, 8 to 15 reps,
Hmm.
depending on where your weight is. That's where you want to start.
Okay.
And then so that's just on its own. So you're gonna do that exercise, rest 60 to 90 seconds, hit another set,
Yep.
continue through 4 to 5 times. Then you're going to move on to the supersets. If you're not supersetting your workouts, I feel like you're
Interesting.
wasting
Go
your
on. Yeah,
time a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit
Okay. Mhm.
for the accessory movements.
Mm.
I don't think you should be back squatting and then doing a Bulgarian split squat
Yep.
with it. So you got that first one. And then superset number 1, I'm going with a lengthened either bilateral or unilateral, 3 to 4 sets, 8 to 12 reps, paired up with a shortened bilateral movement, 3 to 4 sets,
So
10 to 15 reps.
this might look like, let me see if I can be smart enough to put this together
All right.
in my head. So lengthened, let's call it lengthened unilateral. Let's do a Bulgarian split squat. Lengthened unilateral.
So
That's
this is actually my favorite, is doing a hip thrust
with a Bulgarian.
with a Bulgarian,
Okay.
because you already got the bench set up.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go. Just
Okay.
go off the back of it.
All right. Yeah, yeah.
So then
Perfect.
that guy, and then superset number 2, shortened unilateral, lengthened bilateral, 3 to 4 sets, 8 to 12 reps.
And shortened unilateral, meaning maybe a single leg hip thrust. As one example, you probably wouldn't do like a double leg and then a single leg in the same workout, but like, what would be
Yeah,
other?
okay, it depends, because that one could also be like a kickback. It's like cable
Yeah.
kickback, a banded kickback. Single leg hip thrust versus glute bridge. So glute bridge, you're gonna have a little bit shortened range of motion, so it's not as taxing on lower
Yeah.
body as an actual hip thrust would be. Um, so yeah,
Yeah. Okay. And so you would bring in another lengthened bilateral, even though,
I would.
yeah, yeah. Okay. But not a compound. All right. Yeah, yeah.
Correct.
Got you.
Well, it depends, because I mean, well, I'll get to this once we get to our
Yeah,
exercises.
yeah.
Um,
We can keep going too if you want to just.
well, I guess because my thing with especially those hip thrusts is I'm one that my low back will fatigue
Mhm,
out faster, because your glutes should be the strongest muscle on
mhm.
you. They should
Yeah.
be.
Facts.
But my low back, it's very ornery.
Mhm.
If I do too many RDLs and hip thrusts in one workout, I feel it all in my lower back the next day, rather
Okay.
than like my glutes and hamstrings. I don't want that.
Yeah.
Okay, so going into like an actual example workout, I know I kind of
Sorry, I like didn't see that part down in your little sheet. I
I
like
kind of
jumped the
put I
gun. I'm
kind of
like,
put
so
it in
what are the
there already.
examples? Yeah, yeah.
But so like an example, so 1A, your very first compound movement, we're doing a squat or an RDL. We're going 4 by 8 to 12 reps.
Mm-hmm.
So when I have that rep range though, let's say my first set, I've got, a lighter weight, I'm getting warmed up. I'm not going to immediately start using my working weight. I'm going to try to hit as many reps as I can. And then as I'm adding weight, I'm decreasing reps.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly.
That's that. And then for our first superset, so I've got either a squat or RDL, single leg variation, so that unilateral, 3 sets, 8 to 10 reps
Yeah.
each
Okay.
side. And then pairing that with a bilateral hip thrust glute bridge, 3 by 10 to 12, kind of depending. I would probably bring that up more into the 15 rep range, depending on the weight, but
Mm-hmm.
3 by 10, 12, 15, somewhere like there. And then second superset, single leg glute bridge, 3 by 8 to 12 per side, and then some sort of bilateral squat variation, 3 by 12. So this is where you can get the variations of the squats. There's so many different ways you can squat.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. There's a whole other
Here-
page of them here on this
Here
paper. Yep.
they are. So
Mhm.
just squat alone. You can go sumo, you can go offset, you can go pulse, you can go front, you can go back, you can go goblet.
Yep.
There's so many different ways to squat. Any of these exercises. And so that's where when I get people, I don't want to say complaining, but they want to do something else. This is a squat is a squat is a squat.
Hmm.
Like I could program a goblet squat for weeks, but if they want just a little bit different, we're going to go offset squat. You're still squatting,
Yeah.
but it feels different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You hit it, just mix it up for them a little bit, to
Just a
hit them
little
with
bit. Keep you on your
some
toes.
novelty. That way they don't
Keep you on your
complain. And
toes.
then, but we're still applying the principle of keep repeating the most
Well,
important
I get
movements.
it. Like, I don't want to do the same exact workout every single week,
Yeah.
but it's just like those small tweaks.
Yeah.
I do the same exact compounds every single week, but it's those accessory movements, those other ones, not my first exercise, that I'm switching up just a little bit, just so it feels like I'm doing something different.
Yeah. Hmm. Yep. I
Keeps you
like that.
engaged.
Yeah. I have like two really important questions. I'll keep them in my head for now. So go ahead and go on with what's the next thing on there. Or were we done with like a example workout?
Yeah, I was just kind of going through like the different variations of certain bilateral and unilateral movements.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, so many.
Hmm.
There's so many.
Oh yeah, there's so many. Yeah, I mean, even like in lunge variations, you can do like a reverse lunge, a walking lunge, a front foot elevated, a rear foot
Absolutely.
elevated, which is a Bulgarian. You could do a curtsy lunge, which may or may not be important. I mean, like there's all of these different things, right?
There's so many.
Um, yeah, and either step up variations, there's glute focus step ups. I mean, there's everything,
There's
right?
so much.
Do you want to like touch on any of that stuff right now?
You know, it's redundant almost because I mean, right here, so I've got deadlifts. You can go trap bar, you can go barbell, you can go dumbbell, you can go kettlebell, you can go resistance band. For RDLs, you ready for it? You can go trap bar, you can go barbell, you can go dumbbell, you can go kettlebell, you can go
Yep.
cable, you can go banded.
Hmm.
Hip thrust, you can go banded, you can go dumbbell, you can go barbell. Glute bridge,
Yeah.
you can go banded, you can go dumbbell, you can go barbell. There's so many different.
Any any preferences in general among those, or does it depend on the body type or the skill
It does.
level?
So, I mean, it depends on the body type. It depends on the level that you're at. Obviously, I'm not going to put a beginner under the barbell for
Yeah.
squatting, hip thrusting, RDL, none of that. You got to work your way up. Again, you got to build the foundation before you start building the roof.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, it's really up to you, and you can do any. Like I was just doing banded hip thrusts the other day. Humbling,
Mhm. Sure, yeah,
humbling.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, oh, body weight hip thrust or just with a band, yeah, it can be hard, yeah.
It's humbling.
So, okay, so, like, this is a sample workout that you just gave, and we're talking about maybe 5 to 6 exercises, roughly 4 sets
Yes.
each is what I just heard. So we're talking about, like, and this is a straight up, glute-focused leg workout.
Yes.
And so, okay, if you're gonna do something like that, is one of my big questions then. We just did 24 hard sets roughly for the glutes there, right? Let's talk about workout frequency and then, like, total volume throughout the week.
You're talking like
Hmm.
full body here or lower body?
Well,
Sticking
that's
to low body?
That's the question. I'll actually answer that myself because I think you would agree with me to say that there's different ways you could do this. So you could do a body part split while you're still trying to grow your glutes, and you could have, you know, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday be leg days. A lot of it focused on the glutes, and maybe hit upper body Tuesday and Thursday or something like that. Or you could do, say, 3 full body workouts per week. A little longer workouts where you hit everything, but probably just more volume on the
Yeah,
lower body and the glutes. Because we only have like if you're trying, this is at least my advice always, I don't know if you'd agree, but like if you're trying to grow a specific body part and you're already training at the gym, in general, we have kind of a limit to the amount of exercise our body is going to tolerate throughout the week, right? So let's say you
less is
do
more.
okay, but go on. Yeah.
Well, finish your
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
there.
Okay, my thought is let's say that you're hitting the weights hard and you're doing, we just did a 24 set workout. Let's say you're lifting 5 times a week, right? And so you're doing a total of 120, let's say 100 for simplicity's sake, 100 sets of exercises throughout the week. And maybe 20 of those will be glutes, 10 quads, 10 hamstrings, 10 chest, everything else, it adds up to 100, right? What I would recommend doing is upping the volume on your glutes and taking away a little bit from the other body parts. So maybe you do 30 to 40 sets a week of glute focused exercises and a total of, a little bit less on some of the other body parts because we can maintain muscle with much less volume than it takes to build in general.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, what's the less is more? What?
So my less is more statement is because a lot of times, you want to grow your glutes, and so you're in the gym 5 days a week doing some sort of squat, some sort of deadlift, some
Mm,
sort of RDL, some
yeah,
sort of
okay.
hip thrust.
Yeah.
Your body needs rest
Yeah.
to recover. So if you're hitting it hard every single day, you're not giving your body enough adequate amount of time to rest and recover.
Yep.
So you're doing too much. You're
Hmm.
doing too much. And I know that's like it's kind of a fine line you have to walk. But for the majority, I think that that split of if you want to get in and you want to get to the gym 5 days a week, having Monday be a lower body, great. Tuesday, do, you know, 4 or 5 upper body movements and
Yep.
then walk on an incline treadmill for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Wednesday, lower.
Yep.
Thursday, same thing as Tuesday. Friday, lower again. So
Perfect.
you're still moving and you're still doing things. You're not going as, you don't have as much volume for upper body, but you're still doing something that's allowing your lower body
To
the rest and
recover. Yep.
recovery it needs
Correct.
for that next workout.
Yep. Perfect. Yeah, we agree 100% on that.
Perfect.
100%. Yeah. I'm going to fire out my other question before I forget it, and then we can go back to whatever else is left. But so, what about for the ladies? And this is all ladies because no guy has ever asked this, but what about the ladies who want to grow
They've been openly asked about this.
they don't know, not even closed to
All
lead or
right,
whatever
all
the
right,
word is.
all right.
They want to grow the glute med, or they want to
Oh
like kind
God.
of they want to lift the booty up like the top outer shelf. Like I don't think it's, I mean, I don't think it's not laughable in my opinion, but like,
No, it is, but it's and this is just me being I've been in the realm too long of like the different exercises that target the different parts of your
right.
glutes. Um Overall, just doing squats, deadlifts, and hip thrusts, you're gonna target everything.
Yeah.
As far as the shelf,
Yep.
as
Yep.
everybody wants,
Yep.
the main ones are squats, RDLs,
You think
and
so?
then things like kickbacks,
Okay.
stuff like that. Because typically the hip thrust, they're going to target more of that upper one just because of the position that you're in. And depending on where, this is where we're getting like nitty gritty, and
I
I
know.
need
Yeah.
somebody to be demonstrating off of. But when you're hip thrusting, typically people have their feet in a little bit closer to them. That's going to target more of the upper half of your glutes.
Yeah.
Whereas with RDLs, because what are RDLs? Like, what are they targeting? Glutes and
Yeah.
hamstrings. So the hamstrings, they tie in to underneath your glute by working those guys and doing more RDLs and variations of RDLs. You're going to target that shelf
Hmm.
more.
Yeah, okay, on hip thrust specifically. Or I'm sorry, you said on RDLs.
RDLs.
Okay. All right. Yeah, yeah. This is and once again, for people listening, this is like so into the weeds here. This is like the stuff that you'll see like the YouTube fitness influencers like go in and debate, and it's
Yeah.
like for 99% of the population it doesn't freaking matter,
It's
like because you'll hear like,
just strength train.
yeah, just strength train, just get better at the compound lifts and stuff
Yes.
like that. Because you'll hear them
Yep.
be like, well, actually, the barbell squat doesn't do anything for your glute med and for that shelf because it's targeting the lower part of the gluteus maximus and something about the striations of the fibers in
Right.
there. And
And
like, God
I
almighty.
tried to go down that route and like I tried to get nitty gritty with it, but it's like at the end of the day, a squat is a squat. It's gonna work everything to a degree. Does it maybe work one of the glute muscles more than the other? Depends on the person, depends on
Yeah.
the form, it depends on there's so many things that it depends on. Where I was like, I'm not gonna get nitty gritty with this because then people take it so seriously. And if you say like a squat doesn't work the glutes as much as an RDL is, and now everybody's RDLing and nobody's squatting, and it's like, well,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
come
Well,
on.
that's the clickbait stuff. That's how you get people to watch your video. Squats don't work for
Yeah.
glutes,
Yep.
or something like that. Yeah.
No clickbait.
Yeah. No
Rage
clip.
bait.
Well,
I'm gonna freak
actually,
out.
I'm going to try to have Phil title this video in a way that is very clickbaity because we need to get some views on this. But you know what I
That
mean? Like,
is hypocritical.
oh, yeah, I suppose. But we'll talk about that after the episode airs, after we finish recording here. But no, we don't have to be clickbaity. Anyway, it will
I feel like,
it will get listened
but
to
let's
by.
be real. In this day and age, you have to have some sort of clickbait for
Correct.
people to be at all interested in giving their time to it. So
Correct. Yeah. So long story
I wash my
short,
hands of this title.
yeah,
It's
I
not
am.
me.
Yeah.
It's not
Phil
me.
and I'll come up with something good. Yeah. Um, so long story short, you're not that concerned with doing that many of like the cable kickbacks or the seated hip abductor machine. You know, I mean, there's maybe some value, but not
It is,
like,
so those are good accessory movements. I neglected kickbacks for the longest time, and this is one of my like self-reflecting moments where I was so against cable kickbacks for the longest time because I'm like, they're just Instagram Fitspo,
yep, yep.
whatever movements, like you don't need them. When you do them and you do them correctly, you do see change.
Okay.
You do see change. And so kickbacks are a staple in my glute days now.
Mhm.
The setup that I have is a little obnoxious with it, but once I've like, nailed down the form of it, they do work when you're doing them correctly and with in conjunction with our compound big staple lifts.
Yeah, yeah. But it should always be secondary. Should
Yes.
always be progressive
So like
overload in the
I will
compound
never
lifts.
have do I want to go down this rabbit hole?
We might
There
as
was
well.
one particular influencer that I was following, and so oftentimes I'm a little fiend when they like give you like free like a week trial for their programs because I like to see how other people
Mhm. Oh
program
yeah.
and how they set things up. And so she had posted her program, and so I looked at her week, her leg day. So it was a quad and glute day focus. The first exercise, 4x30 on the adductor machine.
Let's go.
The first
Yep.
exercise, I was like, "Oh my gosh," and so I did it, like, I did that workout.
Yep.
I couldn't walk for 3 days like normally,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I know I came in here the next day, and Blake was making fun of me for how I was walking, and I'm like, "No, I might have to go in and see if I, like, tore something, I'm not kidding." But it was like it's and I knew it was bad that I was doing it, but I'm like, "Let's just see how it is."
Yeah.
That was terrible because I did 120 reps on the
Yep.
adductor machine. So that's the
Yeah.
pads are on the inside of your knees and you're squeezing in
Oh, adductors. Why
adductors.
adductors first? That ain't even the shelf. All right, go on. Yeah.
It does have to do with, so this was a bikini bodybuilder. So it does have to do with the hamstring tie-in, those
Mm-hmm.
adductors, and like you need good, strong adductors to do any sort of like good squat or like the big compound ones.
Yep.
You need the strong, small muscles. But I was just like starting off with this because it was 4x30 adductors, and then it went into barbell back squat, 5x12,
Oh,
and I'm
jeez.
like, no wonder everybody's on Anavar and steroids to do this. Are you kidding? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
This is getting too broy now at
Hell
the end
yeah,
here.
no,
But
that's
I
because that's
was
what's out
this
there. Yeah.
it was terrible. So my moral of that story is you don't want to fatigue yourself too early in the workout with movements like that,
Yeah.
with the movements that are targeting those small muscles. So like the adductor, abductor machine, the cable kickbacks, stuff like that. You don't want to fatigue yourself out right away.
Yeah.
You want those at more of the tail end of your
Yes.
workout. I I do like the adductor machine for a warm up for squats, but like 10 to 12 reps.
Mhm.
And then we're going to go squat,
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
not
Yep.
120.
So
That
once
was a
again,
little
just
aggressive.
yeah, yeah. So once again, it's focus on those main compound movements, those key important movements, and get better at them. Connect to feel your glutes working, and then get progressively stronger. Yeah.
It's easy as that.
Yeah. I think anything else like in the weeds exercises, programming. I mean, we've covered a lot.
I mean, we did. And that's why I wish I had a little visual to
Yeah,
show
like some stick
what
figures
I've
doing
got
hip
going
thrust up on the
here.
screen there or something like that.
Um, I guess I have a little note that I didn't really touch on as far as like each set, like each exercise set that you do. If you're going to do 3 sets of an exercise, do 4, but number 1 is
Mm.
your warm-up weight.
Yep.
So when I say, my second superset here, when I've got 3 by 8 to 10 reps, I'm actually going to be doing 4 sets, not 3, because I'm doing that first set with a lighter weight. I'm engaging, activating those certain muscles, and I'm, feeling out the weight, seeing how it feels that day, moving to a different weight with how I'm feeling. And then you go into your working sets. So that's like set number 2 through 5. That's your working weight. So that should be challenging but doable weight. So if your form is breaking, if you're falling over, losing balance, you got it. It's too challenging, and you don't want too challenging.
Yeah.
You want challenging but doable.
Yeah. So you get that warm up set and then take most of the others pretty close to failure. You don't want to be barbell back squatting to failure,
No.
but yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was a lot.
That was a lot.
But I think we did good.
No, we did. Yeah. I mean, key overarching themes, you got to strength train, got to eat your protein, fiber, and enough calories, got to get good sleep, focus on the compound lifts, get stronger in those, do a workout program similar to what Maddie was explaining here. And once again, guys probably didn't even care about this episode, but who knows? I mean, maybe 10 years from now when robots have taken over the world and everything has changed and, girls want to grow their arms and guys want to grow their booties. I mean, the guys will be interested in this one too. So guys, we need glutes as well.
The roles are reversing.
Yep, exactly.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Grow what you want.
Grow what you want.
Grow what you want.
And one other thing I'll say about this too, I was going to say this at the beginning, but people always, think about like, okay, it's so much vanity, and everything. I want to build a booty, that's silly. We should just, get strong and fit. But here's the thing, like most of us have some sort of an aesthetic related goal. You know what I mean? And it's
society.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And it's, I'm a big believer that like having an aesthetic goal, whether it's building your booty, building your shoulders, whatever, trying to get a six pack, go after it, embrace
Absolutely.
it, who cares? But it seems like it's vanity, but I mean, this is the way we are as human beings. We're motivated by things like that. And you learn a lot in the process as well. You learn a lot about how to eat, how to train. You learn a lot about how to be more disciplined. So I'm a fan of
just living a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like and I've had this conversation with my younger sister, because again, like that's the main, especially in today's day and age, where it's glutes are the hot commodity for females. That's what they want to grow. But it's so starting out, it was like females, it was like big of, just doing leg days and strength training. But now I've seen a shift in just like the overall, like the gyms that I've been to, where it's not just women doing all lower body days and cardio. They're doing upper body days.
Yep.
Because as you get more advanced as a lifter and you get more confident in resistance training, you do start realizing like other areas that you can prioritize. And then it's like, it's great. It's great. So I will always advocate. I don't care if you work out 3 times a week and they're all leg days, go for it. Go for it. Do it.
Yep.
Do it.
Yeah.
No shame.
No shame whatsoever. Yeah. No, that's great. Did I don't know, anything else we should cover?
I think we're good.
Okay.
If we missed anything.
Yep. If we missed anything, we'll do a whole other episode where all we talk about is cable kickbacks and abductions and stuff like that. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah. These are always fun.
Now it's time to go
we're gonna go do a workout. Yeah.
Now we're gonna go work out.
Yep, and we're gonna see if I can hip thrust as much as Maddie, which is unlikely. Anyway. Yeah. Well,
what's your max?
Thank you. We're gonna find out. I don't know. I think actually the day that we did it, remember when you and me and Austin did it like a year ago? That was like the only time I've ever gone really heavy. So
that's the only lift that I'm good at. I think it was my max was like 600.
I'm not doing 600.
Not today. Absolutely not. That was in my bro ego lifting days.
We can't put 600 on.
I don't do that anymore. No, with the thin ones. You can.
Yeah, I know that. Well,
you can get a little.
Do we have enough of them here?
I'm not doing that.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Respectfully, I'm what's that word? I've grown up. I'm sophisticated. I don't do that anymore.
You don't ego lift anymore.
I don't do that anymore.
So long story short, people, if you want to grow your glutes, you got to deadlift 600 pounds. Kidding, of course. Okay.
No, I'm sorry. This is just going to be the longest outro of an episode ever. But I saw the most glute gains when I knocked off, because I would do 405 like just all
Like
the
an annual
time because
thing.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I can, so I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
I saw the most glute growth when I dropped off 2 of those plates and was just doing 225
Yeah.
for 12 to 15 reps.
Mm-hmm. Look at the camera. Tell them to drop their ego. Yeah, yeah.
Leave your egos at the door.
I might see if I can do 225 for 12 to 15 today. We're about
That's
to
the
find
sweet
out.
spot, I
Yeah, yeah,
swear.
yeah.
All
All
right.
right. Well, thanks, Maddie.
This
Yeah,
has been great.
yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Now let's go
Yeah.
get our asses kicked.
Yep. Have a great rest of your day. All right.
Build those glutes.
Yep. Peace.